All right, we just started recording. Awesome.
Yay.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Wheel of Neurodivergent Leadership. And you can see that behind me.
I love it. I love that you
Is
have it set up as the background.
and uh, and today we're talking about embodying resilience and grit. And Meredith is here with me today,
Hello,
and
hello.
our other panelists have flown the cute coop. They've got other stuff that has occurred for them that they need to be present to, and so Meredith and I are going to create the perfect conversation about embodying resilience
Well, I
and
have a
grit.
feeling it's because it's summer, right? And it's
Yes,
summertime, and they're just off, right? It's
yes,
officially summer. My kids are out of school, and
totally,
it's time. It's time to, change up the schedules. And nothing in my
totally.
house is working according to a schedule right now.
Awesome. And you're going to Rome, like,
Yeah, we're heading to
come,
Rome and cruising the Greek Isles, and we get to
awesome.
stop in Istanbul, not
Uh,
Constantinople,
that's, a,
Istanbul.
that's
And
right. That's a great song. That's a
I
great
can't
song.
help it every time. And my family got really sick of me singing it over and over again, and I was like, "Haha, this is my neurodivergence at play." Feel.
Yeah, yeah. Let them just deal with it. And you can say you're gonna sing that song so many times. Can you imagine how many times you're gonna sing uh Constantinople?
No, it's
Uh
Istanbul, not
Not
Constantinople.
Constantinople.
Right.
Yes, you're gonna sing it
And
a billion
and
times.
I'm pretty sure that it's, our generation, my
Hmm.
generation, and things like that. My kids are like, "What are you doing, Mom? You're crazy."
Totally. That's exactly right. And we just had Priya join us. Hi, Priya.
Hello.
Hi Ken, hi Meredith.
Nice
So
to meet
nice to
you.
Uh,
meet you both.
and we're going to include you in the conversation too, Priya. So looking forward to hearing what you have to say, I think it'll be a good chance to introduce you to our audience, Priya, as well.
Oh,
For the people that do watch this video afterwards, I think it'll be great for them to get a sense of who you are and the research that you're doing right now. Is Priya somebody I've met before, and she's doing research on spectrum people who on the spectrum, autistic spectrum individuals, and doing some very cool research about leadership and autism. So super excited to talk about that.
thank you
But
so much.
today
Love that.
specifically, we're talking about like this superpower that neurodivergent individuals, specifically, I believe it's ADHD, and I know Meredith, you are uh, ADHD,
Oh, yes.
neurodivergent, and so I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Before we get there, let's just do a quick introduction, okay? I'm Ken Carlson, one of the two founders of Prickly Pear, which is an organization we're dedicated to executive coaching for neurodivergent individuals. We have a tagline: "All brains belong," and I really love that tagline. And my co-founder Petra Russell, she can't be here today, and everything is perfect. So, Meredith, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Meredith Kanan, and I am a differently wired business coach and mentor for the neurodivergents who are running their own businesses. So
Mm.
most of the clients that I work with are small business owners that are all looking to become larger or at least highly
Mm.
profitable business owners,
Nice.
working in alignment with their differently wired mind.
Awesome. 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 And Priya, since you joined us today, I'd love to have you introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you so much, Ken. That's very sweet. Yeah, so I'm Priya. I'm a PhD student, and as Ken already mentioned, I'm looking at all my projects are about diversity, and specifically, I'm interested in studying autistic leaders in the workplace, and most of my projects are focused on the leadership behaviors and also the accommodations organizations can give them so that they can thrive and grow, and all the onus
Mhm.
is not on the leaders to ensure that they are successful in their careers. So yeah, that's very broad
Great.
uh,
Yeah.
introduction.
What university are you a PhD student at?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm from Drexel University, based out of Philly. Um,
Great.
yeah, so my second year of my program.
Very, very cool. Well, excited to hear more about it later in our conversation today. So great. Well, getting to embodying resilience and grit, I'm curious, Meredith, we were talking before we went live about some of the stuff that's been going on with your business and also with your trip coming up. I'm curious about resilience and grit and what that has to do with what's been going on for you right now.
Yes, and of course, me, I have a song to sing
All
that goes
right.
that just popped into my mind, right? If you're a fan of How I Met Your Mother, you'll be very familiar with this one.
Mhm.
I get knocked down, but I get up
Good,
again.
good.
Nobody gonna keep me down. I get knocked down. And I think that song
Mhm.
is the grit. It's
Mhm.
the resilience, because I think
Mhm.
for so many neurodivergent folks, I don't know if it's that it's a skill that we naturally develop by living in a neurotypical world, being neurodivergent, but we
Mhm.
have the experience of failure and being wrong and being told that this doesn't work and it isn't, and it, all of that
Mhm.
messaging that we get at such a young age, right? You have to
Mhm.
sit still, you can't blurt out in the class, you can't, all these different
Mhm.
things depending on your specific neurodivergence. And because of that, right, we are naturally like, I'm going to survive this,
Mhm.
right? Whether we realize it conscientiously or not, it's a big part of who we are. And I think for a lot of us, it's a super scale and a superpower. We are
Mhm.
often the ones that will try again. When we think about
Mhm.
the autism spectrum or, any type of the problem solving, so often
Mhm.
because of our out of the box thinking and our different ways to do something, the idea of looking at something from 17 different angles and coming
Mm.
up with different approaches is a big part of that resilience. It's a big part
Mhm.
of that idea that we are going to solve this. We are going to come up with a brilliant way to
Mhm.
figure it out. And so the biggest, I think, obstacle that we face is that one time we got knocked down one too many times and we
Mm.
say, heck with it, I'm done. And
Mhm.
so that's the biggest challenge, is that we try again. And I think we naturally probably have more tries in us than most folks,
Mm.
right? Einstein, no, not Einstein, Edison, right? They
Mm.
say he learned 10,000 different ways not to invent the light bulb, the quote.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Technically, it might have been somebody else, but
Yeah, we're pretty
whatever.
sure.
But the idea is that it's that type of resilience that has us create and invent, especially when you think
Mhm.
about like coding or any of these technologies. We have these brilliant ideas, and it
Mhm.
takes that resilience and grit to get to fruition. It takes it to get it over the edge. Some
Yeah.
of us are really, really good at 90%,
Yeah.
95%, and something stops us in that extra 10% to get it over the finish line.
Yeah.
And that's where developing and continuing to develop it as a skill set, right?
Mhm.
And acknowledging it as a superpower to help empower our leaders, to
Right.
empower them to understand that this is something not everybody has, especially at the level at which we
Right.
neurodivergent have it.
Yeah. I just had this thought, and then the superpower geeks out there might get this. It's like Superman actually didn't have any superpowers, right? He just was born on a different
Environment.
planet. Yeah. And it was because being on Earth had him have powers on Earth that on his own planet he didn't have, right? So he was just, walking around normally on Krypton, but on Earth because of whatever different gravity or whatever. And
It's the
so,
sun. It's the
yeah,
sun, Ken.
yes, it's the sun.
Forget I'm a superhero geek. I have 8,000 comic books in my household. I married the guy who wrote the Marvel trivia game.
Okay.
It's the song.
I didn't even know who I was talking to, Meredith. That's absolutely insane. So, but to that point, it's like you're born with a different brain, and then and then you on uh, on Earth in the sun, in a way, and so you have the superpower of resilience. And one of the things that popped in my head about that is like I don't know. I can take this metaphor a long ways, but Superman was kind of lonely, right? Like there's no way for the world to really understand him, and I think that occurs at times for neurodivergent individuals where they feel like they're just not understood, and sometimes struggle with bouts of depression, and those type of things. And I'm curious. So the resilience is important, but sometimes that resilience is sort of earned the hard way. I would
Yes.
say, yeah.
Well, and just to get really punny, right? It's on Earth and unearthed the super skills,
Mm,
right? Like
yeah,
I had to go
yeah,
there.
that's perfect. We love
Right,
puns.
right, because it, like you said, and I love it because it is our environment that
Mm,
helps develop, that helps shape us, right?
hmm
And it's why when Priya was talking about making sure that people get accommodations, which is something so important, it's
hmm
about creating the environments that help us thrive,
hmm
right? And because our superpowers, and I think especially this resilience and grit, is so much a product of the environment that we are growing up in a neurotypical patriarchal type of world,
hmm
right? In terms of what it looks like. And so
hmm
and I think it's one of those things that there probably layers and layers that we could unearth
hmm
um, that help us get to that next level.
hmm
I think, what you were saying about the depression and the separation is also a big factor, right? Superman, there aren't other superheroes until, Kara Danvers gets there. Supergirl shows up, 15,
Yeah,
16 years later or whatever it is. And then he's got somebody else to talk about, oh, you this power and I this, right? Like what it looks like to be the superhero in
yeah.
Metropolis, be the superhero in those areas. And I think it's
hmm
why communities for neurodivergent people are so important, whether it's corporate communities or online communities, because we also, there is the language Krypton.
hmm
And some say, and we talked, I think, a little bit about this in our communication conversation, is that neurotypicals communicate well, and neurodivergence and neurodivergence, we speak the same language. I had
hmm
a session with a mentor of mine. She was teaching in my membership, and we were both talking over each other in a very and she's like, and those of us with ADHD can talk over each other and listen to each other at the same time.
Right.
Right? It's those powers of understanding. And at no point do we go, oh my God, she's so rude. She's talking
Yeah,
over me. Where neurotypical people are like, you just interrupted. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Please stop interrupting me. Please stop interrupting me.
um,
Awesome.
Yeah, so that
Mm,
belonging is so important, which I love in the prickly pear, right?
mm,
Tagline, right? All brains belong. It's so
hmm
important because again, that resilience, the
hmm
resilience to the sense of aloneness, right? The
Yeah.
resilience to like, okay, I have to get up and I don't have enough spoons and I don't have that energy to people today, but I
hmm
need to people at work today. I have to have enough energy to make it to that meeting with the other team members,
Right.
right? So there's so many things that looking at it as, as we looked at it and added this to the wheel, right? It's about helping people embody it, helping people see it from the right perspective. And
Right.
I think another thing that is a philosophy, I learned this from some of my mentors that impact parents, impact ADHD, is the concept of failing forward or
Mm,
failing forward faster,
mm,
right? And I think failure has such a like gripping hold on some of us
yep.
that when you have the right mindset on what it looks like, it helps us cultivate that resilience and grit. It
Yeah.
helps us move forward.
Yeah. So something, an expression I've been playing with a lot lately is one that I read, and it's experiments never fail.
I love that one too.
Experiments never fail. And so when we look at life as an experiment, or we look at our work as an experiment, then failure is not possible, right? Because every experiment is just a learning, of course. And of course, another expression that runs through my head is humans are crazy about failure. And another way of putting it is humans are actually insane about failure. And the reality is that we're the only animal that that makes up meaning around our failures. Imagine imagine a monkey being upset that it didn't get the banana and being like, "Oh, I'm such a failure," you know. The example I always like to give is an alligator is in the water, okay, and a crane comes and lands on the alligator's head, and the alligator's hungry, and so what does the alligator do? It reaches up, tries to take a bite, right, and the crane flies away, and then the crane comes and lands back on the alligator, right? Like the crane is all about, finding a comfortable place to land and get a view of what potential food might be for the crane, and the alligator is all about reaching up, and that dance can go on for hours, right? Like, because the alligator's hungry and the crane is hungry, and that's all that they're attempting to solve. They're just attempting to solve their hungry, and at no point in that whole exchange do either the crane or the alligator like start getting down on themselves, right? For not catching the crane, or not being able to stay put and stay where they are. They're just doing what's built in to who they are, right? And that's, and I share that story because that's the resilience, right? That is where we stop making up this meaning of, okay, like, life is not working for me, I must be something wrong with me, right? It's only when we go,
it's that, right, you said it's that meaning, right? It must be something wrong with me.
Exactly.
Versus the environment. I saw a reel or something, and the woman was talking about the fact that she was in college and she got herself a pet snake, and she wasn't feeding it, or she was feeding it regularly as she thought. She took it to the vet, and the vet's like, "Well, how big is the tank that you have it in?" She's like, "Oh, it's this size." She's like, "He only grows to the environment that he has space. He needs a much bigger living environment, right?" And so when we have goals to like grow beyond we know ourselves to be, we need the environment that helps cultivate that.
Right.
And for neurodivergent folks, it's about a different environment, right? A neurotypical environment isn't where we get to grow to be a 60-foot python or something, whatever it is, right? So, and the snake doesn't know that he can't, like, he knows, his body knows he can't grow bigger than that tank. It's naturally there. And so it's about that environment. Had he been out in the wild, there's no limits to how big he can grow. That natural environment for him. And so we have those tanks around us.
Awesome.
And I know you wanted me to talk a little bit about the, kind of the resilience and the grit inside my business. And part of it is, right, I had all these expectations I was so excited. I had these offers I wanted to get my clients that I know was really going to help them make more sales in their business. And I realized that a lot of them didn't have the offer, the project, the thing that needed the sales system. So I had to pivot and create something new. And I love that you said that it was an experiment, because the offer I'm putting out, I'm calling it an experiment. I'm calling it an incubator, because it's that mindset that makes a difference, to give us the space to go, well, maybe it could look like this, or maybe it could look like this. My business has evolved in the last 15 years so many different ways. And so to give people the time and space, the right environment to play, to experiment, to try a bunch of different things until it feels that it has that alignment for the offer, and then make the sales system to go with it.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect. Priya, I'm curious if there's anything as you're in your research or in the work that you've been doing that really touches on this resilience and grit space.
Yeah, so it's still we are like, thank you for that question. Actually, like when
Yeah.
many of the examples you gave, like I was very interested, like
Hmm.
specifically just going 2 steps back when you spoke about Superman. I think one of the examples I think about neurodiversity and just the society, I go to X-Men. I always
Yeah.
think of X-Men and
Mm.
how Professor X, they had to create a separate environment where they can actually leverage their strengths.
Yeah.
And then he literally brings out the best in them. So I was like, okay, that's like a great, I got excited
Yeah.
yeah, about that. Yeah, that's, and even like in terms of resilience, when I speak to different individuals who are on the spectrum, I see that the way they approach everything, the fact that they're very experimental, they're very neutral, they don't have these um, biases
Mhm.
neurotypicals have. They approach with curiosity, which
Mhm.
is like they don't attribute it to any person. If something goes wrong, they
Mhm.
are open to understanding that, accepting that, and they work around it, and they keep adapting themselves, and they are
Mhm.
always like, it's not that I don't know if it directly connects to resilience, but I see that they never feel like, oh, there is this bad situation at work and I'm going to be like be upset about it, but they are like
Right.
always like they're open to it, and they're trying to understand, take every perspective, and
Right.
uh, yeah, but even the fact that have to be resilient, they have to keep adapting. We also see that a lot of their resources get consumed, and
Mm.
Mhm.
only they are responsible for that. And the environment, if there is no accommodations, if again they are in an environment which is very much focused towards the majority,
Right.
uh, resilience is there, but at the same time, it's also like it's a consuming process because they are not in an environment which is tapping into their strengths, but not giving them the accommodations where they can
Right.
also recover.
Yeah, and I think there's this, one of the things that we've been, having this conversation about is how do people who don't want to self-identify, right? They don't want to say, "Hey, I I'm on the spectrum, or I have ADHD," or maybe they don't even know that about themselves, but they know that they have a sense that they're different, right? Like that they maybe have something like that going on for them. But they don't want to, for fear of repercussions or whatever that is. They don't want to, announce it to the world, and they definitely don't want to go join a club of
Right.
ADHDers or whatever, and that, I mean, it totally might make a difference for them, to join a group of people, but because of their fear, because of, and when that sort of burnout edge starts approaching, one of the things that I want to be a voice for is, where do you reach out? Where do people reach out to find resources? Because most organizations aren't doing what's required right now to accommodate people, even if they have good intentions. They're not doing it, well. And the ones that are, that's great, but there's still so much left to be done in that regard. And I think that's part of the power of coaching. Honestly, I think that's part of what uh, the work that we're doing in the world is about. And also I think it's about. I guess I'd be curious, Meredith and Priya, what do you think? Where should they reach out?
Well, I'm not sure that I have a question for that, but I wanted to
Mm.
just kind of dig into. I loved
Mm.
Priya's analogy with the X-Men, because I think one of the things is, when you think about a place to reach out, and maybe I'll get there in this stream of
Mhm.
consciousness, but right, and the X-Men, they actually have their danger room, right? They
Mhm.
have that part of the, facility where they really get to lean into fully
Mhm.
utilizing their powers in a way
Mhm.
that's in a safe
So cool.
environment, right? That's in a way that they can not die when they're practicing, right? And you can see it in
Yeah.
the movies when they do the simulations and they have all that stuff. And I think that's the part for us as neurodivergent folks is, wouldn't it be great if we had more neurodivergent danger rooms, neurodivergent
Mhm.
playgrounds where we really can lean in and let it all out and unmask all of the glorious
Mm,
of our powers. Because I think the other thing when you think about superheroes and video games is the leveling up in those super skills,
mhm,
right? Because you don't just start off being able to do, to like move people with your mind or
mhm,
Bridges or everybody, right? You look at Jean Grey and all the stuff that happens to her as she kind of levels into the Dark Phoenix, right? That's
mhm,
a super power leap,
mhm,
right? And it takes a shift in consciousness, it takes a shift in understanding where those powers lie from and really the source of what makes up our own uniqueness. And
yeah,
so I think um that's where having places to really express it and to really test, right?
yeah,
I'm in the stage where so my oldest is on the autism spectrum and I see a lot of information out there and I go,
mm,
raise my son, like trying to see,
mhm,
hey, I'm pretty sure the whole family's ADHD and a lot of us, I'm pretty sure most of us are dyslexic as well, except maybe my husband. Um,
mm,
but just trying to see like how do we have that access. And so
mhm,
like you say, coaching is a place where we get to explore it, where we at least get to maybe
yep,
verbalize it for the first time and say, I think I might be this, how do I
mhm,
know, what are the
yeah,
steps I take? And then um there are resources, right? There in most places, like for autism, I know locally here we have regional centers that help. And there's a certain level of like government support that you can get, especially on the autism spectrum in most communities. But you do
mm,
need to be, and people are conscientious of the way we say this. So I'm going to say this in the more conscientious approach,
mhm,
right? Less support needs versus more support needs.
mhm,
Often you get services when you have higher support needs versus lower support needs.
right,
Um,
mm,
but you don't see as much for those of us with ADHD. You don't see, like in some countries, there's more government services for people with ADHD where you can get assistance in your
yep,
business, things like that. But you don't see it as much in America. I don't know about a lot of other countries. I have a lot of clients from Australia, so I get a good perspective over there.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
mm,
but I mean, I know there are some local resources. There are some nonprofits that can
yeah,
help. Trying to think of the resource center, I think is backed by like 3 or 4 people.
mm.
Um,
Oh,
I
that's
just
great,
yeah.
great, great, great. I want to start to wrap up a little bit here, and I want to make sure I give Priya a chance to introduce the research that she's doing, and also put in the comments as well when we post this, just that there might be an opportunity for some people that want to, get be interviewed by Priya and the research that they're doing. So, can you talk a little bit about the research that you're doing, Priya, and then we'll wrap up the session. So,
Thank you so much, Ken, and thank you so much, Meredith. Like to even like let me speak about my research. That's something I'm very excited about. Yeah, there are like 2 projects I'm doing. One is the qualitative work, which is already underway, where we are talking to autistic leaders and we are trying to understand their overall experience at the workplace, how they came about to have this leadership role, and what are the support. That's something which you spoke about today,
mhm,
and that the organizations they require with and without disclosing. That's something we are also exploring. Another piece is also how they interact with their employees. So that's like a very broad project, and I'm always looking to interview leaders, and definitely without it goes without saying that it's anonymous. We would not put this information out there. It's only for our research. So yeah, any leader who is like not even open about their diagnosis in the workplace, we're happy to interview them if they are comfortable with this idea. And also going forward, I think this is something I discussed with Ken. There's also a quantitative project where it's not about interviews, it's like surveys, but it's more about understanding their leadership behaviors. It's something we've not rolled out yet. We have this institutional review board. We need
yeah,
approval, but going forward, when that comes, like when that goes live, I will share that information as well. But yeah, it's mostly right now I'm interviewing leaders for this qualitative piece.
great. And
Thank you.
the reality is that there's not very much, if any, really good research about autistic leaders. There's a lot of research about autism, in autistic employees and autistic children. There's very little published research about leadership and autism. And so it's an opportunity to sort of build that database of research. And so just appreciate that the work that you're doing, and we'll tag you on the LinkedIn post. And if anybody wants to reach out and connect with Priya directly, I know that she's more than happy to make that connection. So thank you for that, Priya. Thank you for being a part of our community. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Meredith, it's so great to always hear your perspective, on all these things, and resilience and grit in particular. I hope you have the best vacation coming up, and for everyone else, I just look forward to our next conversation. Will be the last Wednesday of June at 9 a.m. Pacific. Yes, 9 a.m. Pacific on the 26th of June. And we haven't chosen
topic. What do we have
yeah,
left?
what do we have left? Let's take a look here.
Building relationships and connecting. Okay, I think have we done expressing creativity and innovation? I don't think we've done that one, have we?
Nope. Expressing creativity and innovation, or building relationships and connecting. What do you think?
I think we should do purple. I think we should do expressing creativity and innovation.
Okay, sounds good. Well,
we chose.
That's what we'll do. We chose. And great conversation, everybody. Looking forward to our next time. Okay, be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.